The Operator Log, Episode 13, What We Observe. The Machine-Readable Business. Why your next customer will be an agent. The commercial web is being re-architected around machine logic. Most businesses have not noticed yet. Last week, we covered the ARCO flywheel, how operational intelligence compounds across a portfolio and why the library accumulated from each build makes every subsequent company more certain and more valuable. The preview at the end of that episode named this week's subject, the machine-readable business. This episode shifts register. Episodes 8 through 12 were what we've learned, personal, operational, retrospective. This episode is what we observe, external market analysis, structural observation, evidence from what is already happening in the commercial environment. The argument is not about what ARCO has built. It is about what the commercial world is becoming and how that change creates a structural requirement ARCO already designed for. The commercial web is being re-architected around machine logic. Most businesses have not noticed yet. A machine-readable business is a company engineered from the outset to be discovered, evaluated, and transacted by autonomous agents rather than human browsers. The A2A economy, agent-to-agent economy, is the emerging commercial layer where agents make procurement decisions on behalf of the humans who deploy them. In the A2A economy, the transaction layer shifts from human decision-making to machine logic. Traditional marketing competes for clicks. ARCO competes for inclusion in the inference loop. This is the operator log. The conventional counter-argument to every claim about the emerging A2A economy is that human buyers will always anchor commerce. Humans remain the economic principles behind most procurement decisions. Agent-intermediated transactions represent a small fraction of current commercial volume. The businesses that have spent a decade optimizing for human attention, refined UX, psychological conversion design, brand recall, have built the infrastructure that the majority of buyers currently use. The argument has intuitive force. It also has a short shelf life. PwC's 2025 Global AI Jobs Barometer identifies AI adoption as an exponential workforce multiplier, forecasting that widespread AI deployment could drive a 15% increase in global GDP. More immediately observable, industries most exposed to AI are already achieving 3 times higher revenue growth per employee compared to industry averages, and have seen productivity growth nearly quadrupled since 2022. These are not speculative projections about a distant future. They are measurements of what is already happening in the sectors where agentic deployment has moved from experiment to operational standard. In those high-velocity sectors, agent-intermediated commerce is not speculative. It is the engine of the outsized performance the data describes. Agents sourcing vendors, comparing service specifications, initiating procurement transactions, and reporting back to the human who deployed them for final ratification. The human is the economic principle. The agent is the procurement channel. And businesses locked behind human-only interfaces, requiring a human to navigate a website, submit a contact form, receive a quote via email, and approve it through a manual workflow, are structurally invisible to that channel. The more important observation is not statistical. It is structural. Firms that wait until machine commerce is dominant before adapting will face a retrofit problem that is architecturally expensive to resolve. Machine readability is a foundational property. It must be designed into the business architecture from the beginning, not layered on after the fact. The principle is exactly the same one we established in episode 1 for autonomous business design. You cannot add autonomy to a legacy structure. The logic that autonomy requires must be present at the architecture level before the business is built. Machine readability follows the same constraint. You can bolt a developer API onto an existing business. You cannot bolt on the schema design, the inference layer positioning, and the agent discovery architecture that a genuinely machine-readable business requires. Those decisions must be made at the foundation. Once the business is built around human-facing interfaces, the cost of reconstruction is significant. The rebuild tax applied to the customer interface layer. Building for the A2A economy now is not a speculative position. It is operational prudence with a 3-year lead time. The businesses that treat machine readability as a future requirement, something to address once agent commerce reaches a certain threshold, are engineering a structural disadvantage into their architecture at the moment when eliminating it is cheapest. Every quarter that passes without a machine-readable interface is a quarter during which the retrofit cost grows. An agent does not care about your branding. It cares about your schema. Traditional businesses are built to be understood by humans. The interface design decisions that produce a successful human-facing business, visual hierarchy, emotional resonance, persuasive conversion sequences, brand recall, are all calibrated for human cognition. The way humans scan information, what signals they use to evaluate trustworthiness, how they make decisions under ambiguity. A well-optimized human-facing business is a precisely engineered communication system for a specific kind of reader. An autonomous agent is not that kind of reader. It does not scan visual hierarchies. It does not experience brand resonance. It does not evaluate emotional signals or make decisions under the same kind of ambiguity a human navigates. An agent parses schema. It evaluates structured data. It makes procurement decisions on deterministic inputs, pricing, service specification, availability, response latency, and it makes them at machine speed. A business that communicates only in human-readable formats is, from an agent's perspective, not poorly designed. It is silent. The machine-readable interface that has appeared throughout this arc as an internal system integration mechanism is the same architecture applied outward to the customer-facing layer. When we established MRI in episode 9, the context was internal. Schema-validated layers enforcing strict data contracts between the systems inside an arc of business, preventing the end of friction at internal integration points. The extension here is to external agents, customers, procurement systems, and agentic frameworks that need to discover, evaluate, and transact with an arc of business without a human intermediary on either side. Same architectural principle, different direction of flow. The MRI that validates internal data contracts also defines how external agents find, read, and act on the business. ARCO measures the effectiveness of this architecture through the machine discovery rate, MDR, the percentage of service inquiries that are successfully parsed and fulfilled by external agents without human intervention. Legacy businesses measure bounce rate and time on page. Those metrics assume a human reader navigating a page and making a decision. MDR assumes an agent querying a structured interface and either completing a transaction or returning a failure. ARCO's architectural target is an MDR above 90%. If an agent cannot evaluate and initiate a transaction with one of our companies within 500 milliseconds, the interface is failing. Not the agent, the interface. The inference loop is the agent's decision process, the sequence of evaluations an agent performs when tasked with selecting a service provider, comparing alternatives, and initiating a procurement transaction. In the inference loop, the selection criteria are deterministic. Which provider returns the most complete and machine-parsable pricing data? Which specification schema most closely matches the agent's procurement parameters? Which response latency is lowest and most consistent? Traditional SEO optimizes for human search intent, keyword relevance, domain authority, page experience scores, so that the business appears at the top of a human search result. Inference layer positioning optimizes for agent evaluation criteria, structured knowledge representation, schema completeness, API response determinism, so that the business appears as the preferred option in the agent's procurement decision. These are different competitions with different metrics, one through different architectural decisions. A business can dominate human search results and be entirely absent from the inference loop. A business can have zero traditional SEO presence and be the default selection in agent intermediated procurement within its market. If its schema speaks the language the agents use at the speed agents require. To make this concrete, a freight carrier whose pricing API returns deterministic availability data, specific lanes, real-time capacity, structured rate cards queryable by parameter, wins the agent intermediated procurement over a carrier whose website requires a human to submit a request form and wait for a sales team to respond. The agent tasked with sourcing freight capacity evaluates the first carrier in 200 milliseconds, confirms availability and price, and initiates the booking. The second carrier is never evaluated. It was never in the inference loop. The coordination tax we defined in episode 3 operates at the customer interface layer as well as at the operational layer. We have spent 10 episodes examining how the coordination tax makes incumbents structurally slow, how the human-in-the-loop dependencies that generate coordination overhead prevent them from scaling without headcount, from eliminating their cost structure, from achieving architectural certainty. The same structural condition that makes them slow to serve human customers makes them invisible to agent customers. An incumbent whose discovery layer requires a human to navigate a website cannot be discovered by an agent that queries a schema. An incumbent whose evaluation process requires a human sales call cannot be evaluated by an agent that parses a pricing API. An incumbent whose transaction process requires a human to countersign a contract cannot transact with an agent that executes procurement decisions at machine speed. Each of these is a human-in-the-loop dependency at the customer interface, and each one excludes the business from the A2A economy in exactly the same way that the human-in-the-loop dependencies at the operational layer exclude it from the autonomous business model. The retrofit problem is as severe at the customer interface as it is at the operational layer. A business that has built its entire customer acquisition architecture around human attention, its funnel, its conversion design, its sales process, has made the same architectural commitment as a business that has built its operations around human execution. Both are committed to a model that was correct for the era in which it was designed, and both face the same structural challenge. The world they were designed for is changing faster than the cost of reconstruction is declining. Every year of delay is another year of rebuild tax accumulating. For Arco's portfolio companies, machine readability is not a feature layer added after the business is built. It is an architectural decision made before the first line of code is written, the same clean sheet principle that governs every other structural decision in the studio. Every Arco business launches with an MRI layer designed for agent discovery, evaluation, and transaction from day one. The same schema-validated architecture that prevents end-off friction in internal operations is the architecture that makes the business discoverable and transactable in the A2A economy. The design principle is unified. If a machine cannot read it, a machine cannot interact with it. And the machines are increasingly the channel through which commercial value flows. The connection to exit value from episode 11 is direct. One of the primary contributions of MRI architecture to the 70% post-merger integration timeline reduction is the customer interface layer. An acquirer integrating an Arco business does not need to rebuild the discovery and transaction layer for the agentic economy. The MRI architecture is already there, designed to speak the schemas that the acquirer's own agentic systems use. The business integrates as a technical synchronization on the customer side as well as on the operational side. A human interface business requires the acquirer to rebuild the customer interface from scratch before The business can serve agent-intermediated procurement. For a strategic acquirer deploying Arco's operational architecture at their existing scale, that customer interface inheritance is a significant part of the value. It is also worth clarifying what a machine-readable business still needs on the human side. The MRI layer is where agent commerce occurs. The website, the human-readable interface, serves a different function: institutional documentation for the humans who interact with Arco in ways that agents cannot. Potential partners, stewards, institutional investors, the humans who will govern the agentic stack. The website is not competing for agent attention and should not be evaluated by the same metrics that govern the MRI layer. Optimizing only the human interface leaves the agent channel unaddressed. Optimizing only the MRI layer leaves the institutional human audience without context. A machine-readable business maintains both because its customer surface serves two different kinds of reader at two different layers. What is a machine-readable business? A machine-readable business is a company engineered from the outset to be discovered, evaluated, and transacted by autonomous AI agents rather than human browsers. It operates a machine-readable interface, a structured API-first layer designed for agent inference rather than developer integration, and measures its agent-facing performance through the machine discovery rate, the percentage of service inquiries successfully fulfilled without human intervention. Arco's architectural target is an MDR above 90%, with transaction initiation within 500 milliseconds. In the A2A economy, where agents make procurement decisions on behalf of the humans who deploy them, a business that communicates only in human-readable formats is invisible to the procurement channel. Traditional marketing competes for clicks. A machine-readable business competes for inclusion in the agent's inference loop. Here is the verdict on the machine-readable business. The coordination tax has a customer interface equivalent. A business whose discovery, evaluation, and transaction layer requires human intermediation at every step cannot serve a customer class that operates at machine speed. The same structural debt that makes the incumbent slow to serve human customers makes it invisible to agent customers. And agent customers are not a future category. They are the present category in every market where agentic deployment has crossed the operational threshold from experiment to standard. PwC's 2025 data is not a forecast of what the A2A economy might become. It is a measurement of the performance differential that is already visible between AI-exposed industries and the rest. 3 times higher revenue growth per worker, productivity growth nearly quadrupled since 2022. The businesses achieving those numbers are not doing so because they are better managed or better funded. They are doing so because the commercial channel through which they transact has a fundamentally lower cost structure, agent-intermediated, schema-driven, without the friction of human-in-the-loop procurement on either side of the transaction. Arco does not optimize its companies to rank first in a human-facing search. We engineer them to appear as the preferred option in an agent's inference loop through structured knowledge representation, not keyword density. That is the architectural decision. The commercial consequence is inclusion in the commercial channel with the fastest growth rate in the economy. The full written version of this argument is memo number 13, the machine-readable business, on the blog at arcoventure.studio. The Arco lexicon at arcoventure.studio/lexicon defines machine-readable interface and every other term introduced across this arc. Next week, the death of the seat license, why autonomous businesses do not buy SaaS, and what that means for the software industry's dominant revenue model. In an economy where agents make the first call and the humans ratify the result, the businesses that win will be those a machine can understand without asking. This has been episode 13 of the Operator Log.